Hey, Montel Williams here. Look, I've got some incredible news to share with you. I want to tell you about my brand new book that's coming out that's called The Sailing of the Intrepid. Now, this book is more than just an historical account. It's a tribute to the brave men who served aboard the USS Intrepid and a celebration of their extraordinary legacy. Writing this book was such an incredible story, and I'm really thrilled to be able to share it with you. So don't wait to grab your little piece of history. The book is available right now to order. You can go to montelmedia.com, and you can even get a limited autograph signed copy. Now, thank you so much for your support. I can't wait for you to read this incredible story of the sailing of the Intrepid. I'll see you on the pages. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Be Blunt with Montel. I'm your host, Montel Williams, and today we're diving into a solo cannabis roundup. That's right, just me, you, and some of the hottest topics in cannabis world right now. We've got a lot to unpack, so let's get right into it. I'm going to break this into little segments for you. I want to talk first about federal legalization. All right, let's kick things off with some big news coming out of Washington and President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump recently confirmed that his administration is considering reclassifying marijuana from Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug. Now that breaks, and let's break it down just a little bit for a second. Currently, cannabis is lumped in with LSD, heroin under Schedule 1, drugs that are considered to have no medical use and a high potential for abuse. But Schedule 3, that's a whole different ballgame, whole nother world. We're talking about drugs like ketamine, anabolic steroids, substances that are recognized for their medical benefits and they have a much lower potential for abuse. Now, Trump says he's heard both good and bad things about cannabis, but he's open to making a decision in the next couple of weeks. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit cautiously optimistic about reclassification and what reclassification would really do. Would it really open up the doors that we think it would for more research, tax benefits, and let's say for the industry, and most importantly, start to chip away at the stigma that's been holding us back for decades? But here's this really weird kicker. The Trump administration is also talking about cleaning up crime in cities like D.C., cities all over the country, getting rid of the homeless people in all of America, and deploying the National Guard. So is this really a move towards rescheduling because he cares about cannabis, or is it rescheduling cannabis to maybe see if he could appease both sides of the aisle? And let's also remember, when we go to Schedule 3, this is what most people are not paying attention to. If it goes to Schedule 3, whose purview does it fall under? Come on, guys. Wake up here. Don't be stupid. This is going to fall under the FDA, the same people who have said now for 100 years that cannabis has no value. You're going to now convince people who have believed that and thought that for the last 30 years while they've been employed to now all of a sudden accept something that they have been against, and then try to figure out some equitable way or some reasonably realistic way to allow its distribution. And then if you throw the FDA on top of that, that means that, are they going to start to require that every single cannabis plant grown has to have a double-blind study to make sure that nobody gets affected by it? I mean, it opens up a Pandora's box that I don't think any of us are really understanding or really ready to deal with. Only time's going to tell whether or not this president is going to make cannabis more accessible. Schedule 3 would make it more accessible, would actually open up doors to funding for research, but the same doors for funding for research are being closed right now everywhere else in the country. So, my brain explodes after 2 minutes of trying to sit back and think this thing through. I'm not buying rescheduling. I'm buying descheduling. It's a plant. It's a plant that's been around for over 5,000 years, folks. Has been researched and included and put in. I mean, right now there's well over 32,000 research papers that have been published on cannabis in the world. That's more research papers than any other single drug in existence today. Isn't that crazy? Now, yes, I believe in research. I believe that, this plant, we haven't even scratched the surface. We know, depending on who you talk to, who you research, or who you listen to, you listen to some of the research coming out of Canada, or you listen to some of the research that's come out of Israel. No one can really actually agree upon the number of cannabinoids that we can find in a single plant. I mean, I've heard numbers as high as 250 plus cannabinoids to most recent numbers I've been hearing a lot coming out of different, I don't know, not federal, but different research organizations around the world, 150 to 200 cannabinoids. And when they designate or identify them as individual cannabinoids, they really haven't identified what those individual cannabinoids do. So we know there's been recent research articles written a couple months ago that talked about they found certain cannabinoids that seem to have an impact on things as extreme as pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer, guys. That pancreatic cancer. That's the boogeyman of all cancers. And there's never been anything that seems to have shown a breakthrough there. But now they're finding that some of the cannabinoids seem to have an effect on pancreatic cancer. So and you can dig deep yourself. I mean, I think that's what you should do is try to dig as deep as you can to figure out and collect as many articles as you can talking about the viability of cannabis and the value that it has as a medicinal agent for our society. And there's one thing that's for sure. Descheduling cannabis is the best scenario, but rescheduling cannabis, again, is going to improve the way funding is put forth for research, and we will do a lot more of that. So, let's hope that federal legalization is right behind the descheduling or the rescheduling so that, we can have an opportunity to have, some solid information out there for people who have been navigating the spaces right now on their own. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is just the beginning of this process, and we have a very, very, very long way to go. Now, medical research news has shown that, there's been a recent study, and let's shift gears and talk about this, but there's been some groundbreaking research that's been done in the world of cannabis. First up, a federally funded study that has found that cannabis use is associated with milder PTSD symptoms in military veterans. That's right. On the days that veterans use cannabis, they reported lower levels of negative emotions and fewer PTSD symptoms. The study is a big deal, folks. It's one of the first to use both wearable technology and selective questionnaires to track the day-to-day impact of cannabis on PTSD. And the results, they're promising. Veterans are increasingly turning to cannabis as a way to manage their symptoms. And this research could help legitimize its use as a treatment option. But that's not all. Another study just published by Nature Portfolio suggests that cannabis may have neuroprotective benefits, especially for older adults. Researchers have found that cannabis users outperform non-cannabis users on cognitive tests, and their brain activity resembled that of younger individuals. Let me say that again. Cannabis might or really be the true neuroprotective, neuroaging slowdown that some people have been talking about for years now. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, come on, Montel, this sounds way too good to be true. But, and a couple of you could be a little skeptical, but these studies are just the tip of the iceberg, and we need more research to fully understand the long-term effects of cannabis use. But the fact that these studies are happening at all is a step in the right direction. And let's not forget our furry friends. Researchers have also been exploring the potential of cannabis as a treatment for common skin diseases in dogs. That's right. Your pup might benefit from cannabis too. It's just another example of how versatile this plant really is. And we're talking about versatility. We know that the byproducts from this plant, all the other usages. I mean, there's been just like, back in the 1800s when they realized that the peanut had probably, 1,000 different usages. They've realized that now cannabis or hemp has probably somewhere over 2,500 different usages. That's right. Everything from wood to electricity storage to concrete, hempcrete. There's so much more that this plant could be used for that when processing it for human consumption or animal consumption or medicinal purposes, what we're left with, the fiber and things that we're left behind with, actually have and hold the potential for making some significant breakthroughs in just human life. I mean, we know for a fact that hempcrete lasts for a minimum of 100 years. And if done correctly, I mean, right now we're so worried about global warming, but one of the things that you don't hear a lot about it anymore, even though we see the signs of it every single day, but we know for a fact that, if we were to actually grow hemp along the sides of, let's say, some federal buildings in every city around the country, the same way that, you used to go through cities and you'd see vines on the outside of buildings, and they're, we talk about how destructive those vines could be. Well, if you were to grow hemp on the sides of buildings, on the roofs of buildings, you'd be shocked at how much CO2 in the atmosphere could be sequestered just by growing hemp. And I'm talking about, I'm talking, think about any cityscape and thinking about the rooftops of every single city public owned building. If we were to cover all those rooftops with hemp, the amount of CO2 that we could lift from the atmosphere. And that's exactly what could happen. And then you could literally, as you process it and grow it, trim it back, cut it back, use the fiber for everything from turning into, again, hempcrete or turning into a graphene that has a greater electrical storage capability than graphite. Is that crazy, right? All right, folks, so let's talk about something that's been popping up in the medical news lately. This is really something very strange. It's called Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Hyperemesis Syndrome, or CHS. Now, I've got to be honest with you. This is one that's got me scratching my head a little bit. CHS is being described as a condition where long-term cannabis users suddenly start experiencing severe nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. And the only cure for it, they say, is to stop using cannabis altogether. Now, I'm not saying that CHS isn't real, but it doesn't feel like this came out of nowhere. For decades, cannabis has been used medicinally to treat nausea and vomiting, especially when it comes to cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy. And now, all of a sudden, we're hearing about this condition where cannabis suddenly supposedly causes these symptoms. It's a little hard for me to wrap my head around. Here's the thing. The science on CHS is still in its infancy. Most of what we know comes from self-reported cases. Even then, it's mostly and often misdiagnosed as something else, like cyclic vomiting syndrome. Plus, the idea that hot baths and showers can temporarily relieve the symptoms, that just raises more questions than answers for me. And let's talk about the timing. With cannabis legalization spreading like wildfire and more people using it than ever before, is this sudden focus on CHS just a convenient way to push back against the progress we've made? I'm not saying there's a conspiracy here, but it's worth asking. Why now? Why wasn't it a major issue when cannabis was still underground? Why wasn't it a major issue back in the 60s and 70s and 80s? How come we didn't hear all about it back then? And now all of a sudden we're hearing about it now when we have over 38 states in the District of Columbia that have some sort of legal cannabis laws. All of a sudden now there's some syndrome that we all have to be worried about for long-term use, when we know in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, cannabis was being used, I think, just as much as it is today, if not more. And I know that sounds a little strange. You're saying, well, how could it have been used more? Well, the underground cannabis market right now is just as is through the roof. I mean, we know legal cannabis sales in America only represents probably about 26 to 25 to 27% of the cannabis sales in our country. So if we're selling $30 billion worth of legal cannabis in America, we're probably selling somewhere near, I don't know, man, $100 billion worth of illegal cannabis in America. Think about that. It's crazy. And we've always been doing that. So the faster we figure out a way to capture or allow for more legal sales, the faster we're going to be able to collect more tax dollars, though I'm not in favor of the way that they have identified how to tax cannabis. But that revenue goes straight into the state coffers. And a lot of the states that passed the legislation, I don't see a lot of them complaining about the fact that they're getting those extra tax dollars. Do you? Look, if you're a long-term cannabis user and you're experiencing some of these symptoms I was talking about, by all means, you should talk to a healthcare provider. But let's not just jump to a conclusion. We need to do way more research, real unbiased research, before we start sounding the alarm on things like CHS. Until then, I'm going to keep my skepticism dialed up to a high, okay, for sure. Now, it's time for me to get on my little soapbox for a minute, but we've come a long way in the fight for cannabis legalization. But let's be real. We should be much further down the path by now. Think about it. We've got studies showing that cannabis can help with everything from veterans with PTSD to older adults with cognitive decline to even dogs with skin condition. We've got states raking in billions of dollars of tax revenues from legal cannabis sales. And yet here we are in 2025 still debating whether or not this plant should be fully legal at the federal level. Why? Why are we still playing with these silly reindeer games? Why are we still playing them? Why are we letting outdated stigmas and political posturing hold us back? Cannabis is it's more than just a plant. It's a medicine. It's a healthier adult vice. It's an economic powerhouse. It's time we stop treating it like a taboo vice and start embracing its potential. So to all the policymakers out there dragging their feet, get it together. The science is clear. The public is on board. The time is now for full legalization. Let's stop tiptoeing around the issue and make it happen. Now I got one more for you. This one is really kind of a trip. This is a new one. The city of Eden Prairie, Minnesota is making waves with a bold new move that they've decided that they're going to launch their very own government-branded cannabis gummy that will be sold at local, get this, liquor stores. That's right, a city-backed THC-infused gummy, and they're letting the community name it. This is a trip, man. Come on now. Now, here's the big deal. These berry-flavored gummies are crafted specifically for sleep with 5 milligrams of THC and 30 milligrams of CBN per piece. And the city isn't just stopping there at making the product. They're inviting the residents to get creative and submit their best, brightest, or downright weirdest name ideas. Submissions are open until July 29th, and the top 3 names will go head-to-head in a community vote. The winner not only will get their name to grace the packaging, but they're also going to snag a free pack of these gummies just for having been a part of the process and getting people to vote for them. This is so fascinating, and fascinating as an example of how local governments are stepping into the cannabis space in what they consider innovative ways. It's not just about legalization anymore. It's about the community engagement, economic opportunity, and let's be honest, just having a little bit of fun along the way. But the story is one that, for me, it's kind of like, one piece of the puzzle. Minnesota cannabis market has been heating up, with the state issuing its first recreational marijuana business license and tribal nations leading the charge with their own dispensaries. It's a dynamic time for the industry, and the Eden Prairie's Gummies Project is a sweet reminder of how far we have come. But now think about this. Out of all 38 states in the District of Columbia, does this mean that every single state is going to now compete with the private sector and create their own government-sponsored gummy? And would the feds step in and try to bust them? This is really kind of weird. I mean, I really want to know what you think about this. So shoot me a note and let me know. Give me a blurb. Is this kind of crazy? I mean, I can't see, first off, the fact that most cannabis, whether it be recreational or even medicinal, are sold through designated cannabis dispensaries, and regular providers of cannabis can't walk in and sell their product in liquor stores, but the state's going to come in and say, we're going to sell our product in liquor stores. Come on, man. I mean, is it a good thing? It's a good thing in the sense that at least it looks like we have some administrations around the country thinking, okay, I'm ready to put my toe in that pond. I dare you, Fed, to come in and mess with me, because that's what it sounds like to me. However, do we need our government? And again, the same government that has now had poo-pooed cannabis for the last 100 years, that same government now coming in and producing a product? It's a little sketchy to me, man. I'm telling you. I don't know. You tell me. Something's off here. I don't get it. It's like tomorrow if the Fed decided, okay, we're going to reschedule a Schedule 3, and when we schedule a Schedule 3, we're going to come up with the USDA approved version of cannabis, and we're going to sell it to you. So you go buy ours instead of the ones you're buying. It would make me wonder what I was putting in my mouth, to be honest with you. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy person, but I'm just saying it would really make me wonder. All right, folks. So it's time for me to get on my little soapbox for a minute. We've come a long way in the fight for cannabis legalization. That's a fact. But let's be real. We should have been much further down the path by now. Think about it. We've got studies showing that cannabis can help with veterans with PTSD, older adults, cognitive decline, and even dogs with skin conditions. We've got states raking in billions of dollars worth of tax revenue from legal cannabis sales, and yet here we are in 2025 still debating whether or not this plant should be fully legal at the federal level. That's really ridiculous. Why? Why are we still playing these silly reindeer games? Why are we letting outdated stigmas and political posturing hold us back? Cannabis is more than just a plant. It's a medicine, a healthier adult vice, and an economic powerhouse. It's time that we stop treating it like a taboo, a vice, and start embracing it and its potential. So to all the policymakers out there that are dragging their feet, get it together. Come on now. The science is clear. The public is on board. Then the time for legalization is now. Let's stop tiptoeing around the issue and make it happen. That's all I got for you for today, guys, on this episode of Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Thanks for tuning in, and always stay informed, stay engaged, and you know what you got to do, stay blunt. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining me on Let's Be Blunt with Montel. Please make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell to be notified when new episodes post each week. We'd love to hear your feedback also, so please send us your comments. Military Makeover is so grateful for the support of Purple Heart Homes, a nonprofit organization that rebuilds and transforms the homes for our veterans.
Our heroes come home with sacrifices most of us can't imagine. As a veteran myself, I've been there and founded Purple Heart Homes to help.
When I tell the story of Purple Heart Homes, it's the freedom to not have to depend on somebody else to do the simple everyday things in life.
Visit phhusa.org/makeover to learn how you can help.